The adolescence time period is a time when children are developing into teenagers and eventually adults. During this time period, there are many changes going on, both physical and mental. As if those changes aren't enough, relationships are also changing or developing. Hopefully, this presentation will give adolescents an idea on how to manage these relationships in their lives. The adolescence phase lasts from the age of 10 to the age of 21. During these 11 years, people are going to change more than they have or will throughout the rest of their lives. Adolescence is broken up into three stages: early, middle, and late. Early adolescence lasts from 10 to 13 years old. Middle adolescence lasts from 14 to 17. Late adolescence lasts from 18 to 21. There are three theories of development that help explain some of the changes that adolescents are going through. The first one is Erikson's psychosocial stages of development. This explains why adolescents are trying to figure out who they are, where they are in their lives, and what they may want to do for the rest of their lives. At this point, it's not really set in stone that this is what they're going to do, but it's a pretty good idea of where they want to go. The ideas of what they want to do later on in their lives are guided by morals that they develop in their previous development stages. The second theory is the Piaget cognitive development theory. This theory places adolescents in a stage of formal aberrations, where they are able to see others' perspectives. This plays a crucial role in relationship development because adolescents need to recognize the perspectives of their partners, peers, or family members in any relationship. The final theory is Freud's psychosocial development theory, which places adolescents at the genital stage. This means that adolescents are going to experiment sexually and eventually settle into relationships. Healthy characteristics include self-respect, which is knowing what you want for yourself and setting boundaries for yourself. Mutual respect, knowing what the other half of the relationship wants for themselves and not crossing those boundaries, and vice versa. Trust is believing the other half has the ability to respect you enough not to cross your boundaries. Honesty plays a big part in trust, and it means telling the whole truth. Compromise, well, all relationships are give and take, which means you're gonna do some things that you're not really 100% about, and they're gonna do some things that they're not 100% about. Individuality plays into the relationships are give and take, but even though they are give and take, you don't want to give too much to yourself or take too much from a person that you lose who you are along the way, and vice versa. Good communication. Being able to get all of your feelings and thoughts out and allowing for the same from the other person involved. But know that communication is pointless without comprehension. Anger control is important in every relationship because not everyone is going to agree with everything, and that's okay. But it's not okay to flip out when something doesn't go your way. Fighting fair is important because every relationship is going to have its battles, but try to understand where the other person is coming from, and you never want to hit below the belt because there's just some things that you can never take back. Self-confidence is important because you always want to believe in your abilities, qualities, and judgments, even if you've made some bad decisions in your past. Problem solving and understanding are also very important in healthy relationship characteristics. Unhealthy relationship characteristics include control, hostility, dishonesty, disrespect, dependence, intimidation, physical violence, and sexual violence. Sexual violence includes any type of touching that you don't want. During adolescence, it's perfectly normal for teenagers to start to develop ideas and opinions that are different from their parents, and that might cause a little bit of tension, but that's perfectly normal. And we're going to talk about how teenagers and parents can communicate in order to get past these differences in a healthy way. Adolescence, teenagers begin to separate from their parents and have more independence than before. This can lead to either healthy or unhealthy relationships between adolescent and parent. The relationship between the two is going to be different than ever before. In order for the relationship to be healthy, parents should be open to making rules in conjunction with their adolescent and their wants and needs. It will help to have a discussion and hear everyone's thoughts before going forward to make the rules. Compromise plays an important role in this part of the relationship. In addition, parents should continuously have the desire to want to be involved in the teen's life. Parents should remain involved in their teens' activities as well as support them through communication because sometimes teens may just need someone to talk to and get advice from. Parents should always remember that things that teens are going through are most likely just new things and they might not know how to handle them in the best way. So they need that guidance from their parents to really help them get through these next few years. It's important that adolescents feel like they can continue to involve their parents in their lives. You should tell your parents what's new in your life, keep them updated on friends and other relationships. More than likely, your parents have already been through what you're going through or something similar. They can provide guidance and advice on what you're going through and help you get through it. You and your parents should also set time aside to do activities together in order to continue to build your relationship. The activities can be somewhere between what you like and what your parents like. Ultimately, the final decisions are up to your parents, which may not always be in your favor when it comes to what you can and can't do. However, if compromise, communication, and mutual respect have been established into the relationship, the decisions shouldn't be too far from what you wanted. And even if they are, your parents still call the shots, so you have to listen to what they say. Should support their adolescent through communication. Most times, parents want to see their adolescent succeed in school, relationships, and attitude. They desire to support you, but in order to do that, they have to know what's going on in your life. So remember to keep them updated by communicating with them what's going on, who your friends are, and keeping them updated on activities so they know how to keep up with you. Sometimes they make rules that are frustrating for you or that you don't understand. However, most times they're doing this for your benefit, either right now or in the future, and you just don't see how it's going to help you yet. You need to trust that they know what they're doing because one day you might be thanking them. Remember that your parents have been around longer than you have, and they most likely have seen these things before, and they just want to make sure that you're handling this in the right way. Adolescents should continue to recognize their parents as authority figures, although they're beginning to gain their partial independence. Like I said before, you should always listen to your parents because they make the final decisions. Although your parents should want to be involved in your life, you can't leave all of that up to them. They can only be involved as much as you let them. You should be working to include your parents in your life by keeping them updated on what's happening. Remember, communication is key. But even though communication is key, with every relationship you're allowed privacy. So if you don't want to share everything, you don't have to. However, you should share everything you feel comfortable sharing. And even though your parents make the final decisions, you and your parents should be working together on rulemaking and decisions that involve you. This way, your voice is heard. If you don't speak up, they won't know how you feel about it. There are many things that may negatively affect a relationship with parents. Divorce isn't only difficult on the parents, but also on the children involved. Communication with all children, especially adolescents, will go a long way through a divorce. Adolescents may struggle with feeling guilty. They may feel like something they did caused the divorce. The teen might feel betrayed by one or both parents and begin to feel unlovable. They see how relationships are able to fall apart and they might deflect that into their relationships with peers and significant others when it comes times to date. They may feel anger towards one or both parents, lose respect, affection, and might even blame them. This can cause anger to arise in other areas of their lives. And most adolescents don't want to discuss these struggles, which can lead to decreased communication overall. Other causes of unhealthy relationships include poor communication, siblings, inadequate parenting, illnesses, death, finances, abuse, drugs, and alcohol. Unhealthy parent adolescent relationships will negatively affect the adolescent. They may begin to feel guilt and shame because of their relationship with their parent. They may be angry with their parents because they need them. And this is such a crucial time for teenagers, and they really need the guidance from their parents. They may have trust issues in other relationships in their lives. Some adolescents even struggle with sadness that could potentially lead to depression. And these internal effects will eventually lead to external effects, which can cause decreased performance in school, problems in other relationships like with their siblings, friends, and teachers, and eventually a lack of structure in their life. What is most critical is that honest and supportive communication is occurring on both sides of the relationship. This is the primary tool in overcoming conflicts and struggles in family situations. I know it can be extremely difficult to communicate and talk about hard things with your parents, and oftentimes it won't be comfortable. But in order to create a healthy relationship with them, you must also be able to communicate. Remember, there's many side effects and consequences to not having a healthy relationship with your parent, and you don't want those. But if you do find yourself in an unhealthy relationship with your parents, be sure that you're also seeking help from others, friends, teachers, and pastors. They can offer you comfort and support and helpful advice as you navigate the relationship with your parents, and hopefully it gets better. Throughout your life, you've had friends and peers, and you've dealt with them in different ways. Now, the relationships may change a little bit, and we're going to tell you why and how to help maintain these relationships. During adolescence, especially the early and middle stages, peers have a higher influence on you than at any other point in your development. Your peers influence how you dress, talk, act, and what activities you participate in. They also have an influence on what you eat and your physical activity. This is all perfectly normal because as people, we like to follow trends and keep up with what's going on around us. Your peers can also foster both positive and negative behaviors, which is why it's so important for your parents to know who you're hanging around. This is a chart outlining the benefits and the negatives to peer influences in our lives. Benefits include helping you become more independent from your parents and developing your own personal identities, which includes your ideas, your opinions, what you want to do. It also provides a good source of social and emotional support, especially if you don't have the relationship with your parents that you wish you had. Negative effects include bullying, rejection, and peer pressure. During early adolescence, majority of your friend group is going to consist of people who are the same sex as you. Most of your influence is going to come from friends who are the same sex as you rather than the opposite sex. Female groups are going to have relationships built on social activities, while male groups are going to have relationships that are focused on sports or gaming or relationships related to that matter. Middle adolescence, you may notice that your friend groups become more integrated and you're going to have more than one gender in your friend group. You may begin to experiment with different groups to see where you fit in, like the athletes, math, checkers, things of that nature. And some adolescents may begin to experiment with gang members. It's important that adolescents continue to communicate with their parents about who they're spending time with because even though they're becoming more independent, they still need their parents' support to help them make decisions and to keep them from engaging in high risk behaviors. It's also known that adolescents who spend more time with their parents and communicate more with their parents are more likely to make healthy choices. Now we're going to talk about healthy and unhealthy relationships with dating. By the end of the early adolescent stage, adolescents start dating. Dating usually begins around 12 and a half to 13 and a half years old, and if you haven't started dating yet, that's perfectly fine. There's no need to rush. Dating usually starts in groups rather than one on one. One on one dating doesn't really start to become a thing until they're about 16 years old. Depending on who you're dating and the nature of the relationship, it may have a positive or negative effect on your self esteem and academic performance. When it comes to dating during adolescence, parents play a very important role in ensuring that the relationship is healthy. Parents should discuss with their adolescent that both partners should respect one another. There should be no bullying or threatening throughout the relationship, and a parent should be able to notice if there's any changes in their adolescent's behavior. They should encourage them to speak about their feelings and their experiences, whether they're positive or negative. Parents should also begin talking with their adolescent about sex and dating early, as well as pregnancy and STIs. These should be done before the first date. Early sexual behavior places adolescents at risk for STIs and teen pregnancy, which can be avoided with proper precautions. Discuss with their adolescent that no always means no, and that no one should force them into any sexual act. Remember to encourage your adolescent to report any act of dating violence. Always be honest and open with your adolescent. Be non judgmental and answer their questions. Remember that your teen might be going through these things for the very first time, and they're coming to you, trusting you to help them and guide them. Remember that safe sex is the best sex, so talk with them about the dangers of STIs and how to prevent them. Also, talk about pregnancy and how to prevent pregnancy as well. Annual visits are the best time for nurses to talk about sexual behavior and the risks associated with it for adolescents. Nurses should be open and honest about the conversation and provide a safe space for the adolescents to speak, ensuring confidentiality for the patient. In addition to the nurse being honest, the adolescent should also be honest about their sexual activity. That way, the nurse is able to help them. Here are some scary facts that will help you think twice about unprotected sex. 1 in 4 adolescent females have a STI such as chlamydia or HPV. There has been an increase in the past 4 years of the number of adolescent males with chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis. Since the last report in 2015, the pregnancy rate has decreased to 22.3% in adolescent females aged 15 to 19. However, the number still isn't zero, which means there's still a risk. Here is our list of citations used.